Welcome to the Science of Fiction HFY Galaxy Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from HFY Galaxy Tales, where humanity always finds a way. The human in the hangar smelled like smoke, metal, and fear. Alien soldiers stood far back, weapons drawn, eyes wide. In the center, a massive dragon-like beast, scales shining dark red, rested calmly on the floor. And next to its enormous head stood a human wearing a dirty jumpsuit. Hands greasy, whistling softly, he gently touched the beast's nose, and it rumbled like a giant cat. The guards whispered among themselves, confused and scared. No one had ever tamed the royal warbeasts, not even the beastmasters of the Empress. But now, one of the most dangerous dragons in the Empire was lying like a sleepy pet. The human's name was Cole, and he was just a mechanic from Earth. He had arrived on the Empress's world 3 days ago, sent to fix broken transport engines, but when he passed the warbeast hangar and heard growling, he had walked in without permission. Everyone expected him to die within seconds, torn apart, or roasted alive. Instead, the dragon had stared at him, then lowered its head like it knew him. The Empress watched from her high balcony above. Silent, still, and furious, her warbeasts were weapons of fear, not pets to be touched by Terran workers. She raised her hand, and her guards prepared to storm the floor, but as they moved, the dragon lifted its head and growled low, wings spreading slightly. The guards froze, unsure what to do. Cole turned and looked up, seeing the Empress for the first time. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and wrapped in a robe made from starlight silk, even from above. She looked like a goddess judging the fate of mortals. He didn't bow, didn't kneel, he just waved awkwardly and said, "Hey, I think your beast's leg is infected." Gasps echoed through the hangar. Some guards nearly dropped their weapons. One brave officer shouted, "Silence, you are speaking to the Empress of Zeverath Prime." But the Empress said nothing, only narrowed her eyes and began to descend the long staircase. With every step, the room became quieter, the air tighter. Even the dragon remained still, watching her closely. Cole stepped back slowly, giving space but not showing fear. The Empress reached the floor. Standing just a few feet away from the dragon's huge eye, she looked at the beast, then at the human, then back again. "You touched it," she said coldly, "and it allowed it." Cole nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I think it was in pain," he said. "Animals usually act angry when they're hurting." The Empress looked confused for a moment. "No one has ever touched this beast and lived," she said. "It burned a squad of warriors last week." Cole glanced at the creature, who now rested its head on the floor again, eyes half closed. "Maybe you never tried kindness," he said quietly. The Empress's eyes flashed, but she said nothing. She walked slowly toward the dragon, who growled once but didn't attack. She stopped just short of its face, unsure, for the first time in years. "Make it bow to me," she commanded, turning to the human. Cole shrugged, turned to the beast, and said softly, "Down, girl." The dragon snorted, then gently lowered its head, touching the ground. Everyone in the hangar gasped again, stunned. The Empress stared, her voice barely a whisper. "What are you?" Cole chuckled, looking down at his dirty hands. "Just a mechanic," he said, "but where I come from, we fix more than machines." The dragon licked his arm gently, then closed its eyes, falling asleep at his feet. And in that moment, the Empress realized she wasn't in control anymore. He was. Not because of power, but because the monster trusted him more than it ever trusted her, and that terrified her more than war ever did. His voice controls fire. The royal arena was filled with thousands of alien citizens. They came to see the wild dragon again, the same beast that had once burned an entire village, but this time, it walked calmly behind a human mechanic from Earth. Cole entered the stone arena with oil-stained boots and a wrench hanging from his belt. The crowd laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. Then the dragon appeared, silent and obedient, its giant claws clicking softly against the floor. Silence fell over the crowd like a wave. The alien guards clutched their weapons, ready to shoot if the beast went wild, but the creature walked in slow circles around Cole, always keeping him in sight. It watched him the way a loyal hound watches its master. On the royal balcony, the Empress sat in her shining armor, lips tight, eyes sharp. She had not spoken a word since yesterday when her beast bowed to a human. Now she would see if it was a trick or something more. A loud horn echoed, and 3 more warbeasts were released from iron gates. They roared and stomped into the arena, their eyes glowing red. wings stretching wide. Everyone screamed, expecting chaos and death, but Cole didn't flinch. He stepped forward, raised his hand, and made a low whistling sound. The dragon beside him lifted its head, roared once, and the other beasts stopped in their tracks. It gave a second roar, deeper, longer, and the others slowly lowered their heads. No one could believe what they saw. Even the guards on the balcony looked at each other in fear. The Empress stood up, her voice cutting through the silence. "How?" she demanded. "Tell me how you do this." Cole looked up, shielding his eyes from the sun. "They listen because I don't treat them like monsters," he said. "They listen because I speak with care." The Empress ordered the beasts back to their cages, but they didn't move. She looked at Cole again, and he gave a small nod. He whispered something to his dragon, then snapped his fingers. All three warbeasts turned around and returned through the iron gates without protest. The crowd exploded in cheers, shock, and disbelief. Cole turned to leave, but a royal guard appeared in his path. "Her Majesty invites you to her chambers," he said nervously. Cole sighed and followed, his boots echoing down the silent halls of the palace. The Empress waited for him alone. No guards, no crown, only her curious eyes. "I want to know everything," she said, "what you are, what you did, and how my creatures obey you." Cole sat on the floor, not caring for manners or titles. He spoke simply. "Back on Earth, I worked with old machines that thought like animals," he said. "They used sound, light, and feeling to respond. These dragons," he added, "they're not just weapons, they feel." The Empress listened quietly, her hands folded, her mind racing. "You speak to them like children," she said slowly, "not like tools." Cole nodded. "Exactly." Suddenly, a scream echoed from the hallway. Assassins had entered the palace, rebels who hated Terrans. Before the Empress could call for help, two masked attackers stormed in, blades ready. But the dragon burst through the wall like a thunderstorm. It knocked one man aside and burned the other with a single burst of fire. The Empress didn't even scream. She just stared, heart pounding. Cole stood calmly and patted the beast's nose again. "Good girl," he said softly. The Empress took a shaky breath, her voice almost quiet. "Tomorrow," she said, "I want to ride it." Cole looked up, surprised. She stepped closer, her voice serious. "Make it kneel for me," she said. "No one has ever dared to try, but I want to." Cole smiled slightly and nodded. "Then we'll try," he said, and behind him, the dragon blinked slowly, already understanding what would come next. Kneel before the mechanic. Morning light poured through the palace windows like warm gold. The courtyard had been cleared, the guards stood in silence, and the air was filled with tension. The Empress walked slowly across the stone path, dressed in royal armor, every step echoing like thunder. Beside her, Cole adjusted the straps on the saddle now fitted to the dragon's back. The beast stood calm and quiet, wings folded, its eyes watching the Empress with sharp focus. No one else dared to come close. Not even the beastmasters who once ruled these creatures. The Empress stopped a few feet from the dragon's face, her heart pounding in her chest. She had fought wars, crushed rebellions, and walked through fire, but this moment frightened her. Cole nodded at her gently. "Talk to her," he said. "Let her feel your voice." The Empress hesitated, then took a breath and whispered, "Please." The dragon blinked once, then lowered its head, touching the ground in a sign of trust. Gasps rose from the shadows where the court watched in silence. Even the guards exchanged shocked looks, unable to believe what they saw. The Empress reached out a hand, trembling slightly, and touched the beast's warm scales. It didn't flinch, didn't growl, only sighed softly, as if accepting her touch. "Climb up slowly," Cole said, his voice calm and steady. "She holds still." The Empress stepped onto the dragon's side, 1 foot at a time, her heart racing with each motion. And then she sat, high above the ground, on a beast no one had ever dared to mount. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange: peace. Cole stood beside the dragon's head, looking up at her with a quiet smile. "You did it," he said. "She accepted you." The dragon lifted off the ground slowly, wings spreading wide, wind brushing against the Empress's armor. She gave no commands, but the creature moved with her as if they shared one mind. They flew in a slow circle over the palace, the sky clear, the city below frozen in awe. Children pointed upward, nobles stared in disbelief, and the soldiers dropped to one knee. When she landed, the Empress stepped down with her face flushed and eyes shining. She turned to Cole, her voice soft but firm. "I want to learn everything," she said, "not just how to ride them but how to understand them." Cole nodded. Then you must start where I did, he said, with respect, not control. Days passed. And the Empress trained with the dragons, not as a ruler, but as a student. She learned to feed them, to heal them, to speak in their language of sounds and motion, and the more she listened, the more they followed her, not out of fear, but out of trust. The palace changed, the beast cages were opened, the chains removed, and the warbeasts roamed freely with Cole guiding them. Visitors from other star systems came expecting fire and terror only to find dragons resting beside children and laughing nobles. One day, the Empress stood in the training hangar, watching Cole teach young alien children how to care for the beasts. She no longer wore her crown, only simple clothes and a calm smile. Cole stood beside her, arms crossed, watching the next generation learn. Your empire has changed, he said. So have you. The Empress nodded, her voice warm. It wasn't your power that changed me, she said. It was your patience. Cole smiled and looked at the dragons resting peacefully around them. Turns out, even monsters respond to kindness, he said. And in that quiet hangar, once filled with screams and fear, the sound of laughter echoed instead.